Welcome back to another episode of the Anything and Everything podcast. You're here with your host and your boy. I am, and today, y'all, we gonna get something really deep today, right? As you know, I said it before. As you know, I always tell y'all that, or if you don't know, I am a social worker, so I'm all about the mental health, emotional health, and well-being. So today we're gonna take a little bit down that aisle, down that road, down that rabbit hole. Just a little disclaimer though, right? We're gonna be talking about it's gonna discuss a little bit of sexual abuse and molestation and things of that sort, and rape, and also about maybe a little bit of suicide ideations or attempts, right? So just be prepared about that. And if you're not comfortable with this particular topic, I thank you for knowing your strong self, right? And if you're not able to, I understand if you're not being able to get through this episode. But it won't be anything as graphic or anything. But if it does trigger you, I'm sorry about that, and I stand with you. So, I was invited out to an opera with one of my colleagues, and we went to go see Fire Shut Up in My Bones at the Met Gala, and the Met Opera. I'm sorry, the Met Opera. And I was seeing it it was like on Instagram, it was like on Facebook feeds, like it was like literally everywhere. And I was like, you know what, I want to go see it. And so my friend had texted me like, hey, I want to go see this opera. Do you want to go? I said, sure, let's go. Cause she became my play partner. Like we go see plays like it's nobody's business, right? On Broadway, off Broadway, like we don't care. Like also because her child is a theater child, so her child did she was in front of the camera, but now she's behind the camera. She's doing a lot of production and producing. So we are constantly at plays that either her child is working on, or if her child thinks that it's a good one for us to go see. Like we don't went to see them in Manhattan, and Brooklyn. We went to Philadelphia. We went to Pennsylvania. Um, she went over out there one time to Boston. Like we really be traveling to see these particular plays. We just love a good play. So she hit me up and said, let's go. I said, sure, why not? So we purchased our tickets and we went out there to go see it. So I never saw the opera before, and I didn't even do like a preview, because for me, I got to the point in my life where I don't like watching movies, shows, or anything without first reading the particular. I'm going onto Google and reading the plot. I don't know. I don't know what the plot is. I don't want no surprises. I need to know what's happening, when, where, and what part. Right. I just finished watching Grey's Anatomy, right? And before I watched the episode, I went right on Google and I read literally the whole thing. So I know what's going to happen in this episode. I need to know when. I don't need no surprises, right? So, but for this particular opera, I did not do that, right? And also, this was my first opera, right? Because I don't do opera, I do plays. So, it's now in a different language, and they sing it in different, it's all the things and whatnot. Like they did have it, we could put the words in English and whatnot. So I basically just kind of just just watch the movement to understand what they were saying and talking about. So once again, another not a disclaimer, but a spoiler, right? So a spoiler. So I am going to spoil it. So because I don't think it's still out, and I don't think it's coming back out. But if it does come back out, then obviously, you'll have the plot for it. So I'm going to read the plot, right? So it's a three-act part of a three-act part of the opera. So I'm going to read the acts first, and then we're going to discuss, and then we're going to discuss my topic for today. So, Act 1, right? So, Act 1, as the opera opens, Charles Blow, age 20, is driving towards his childhood home in Louisiana. The voice of destiny sings to him, and he relives childhood memories. In the flashback, Charles is 7 years old, known as Charles E. Baby. His mother Billy works in a chicken factory to support her 5 sons, and they live in poverty. Billy dreams of Charles E. Baby getting a good education and leaving town. Billy's husband Spinner is generally absent and a womanizing wastrel. Discovering his latest misdeed, Billy kicks Spinner out at gunpoint. The family moves in with Uncle Paul. Charles E. Bay spends time collecting treasures from the junkyard while loneliness sings to him. When his cousin Chester comes to visit Charles E. Bay, is initially pleased. But when Billy innocently puts them in a room together, Chester sexually abuses him. He is too devastated and shocked to tell his mother or anyone else. At the end of Act 1, the adult Charles cries, whistled, reflecting on these memories, and the voice of destiny reminds him he cannot escape from them. Act 2 is focused on Charles is now a teenager and is dealing with the lasting impact of the abuse. Attending a church revival, he is baptized by a pastor who promises that God can wipe all sins clean. The baptism does not seem to ease Charles' mind. Charles tries to open up to his brothers, but they reject his attempts at soft talk. The personification of loneliness reappears and promises to accompany Charles. This encounter is interrupted by Evelyn, a beautiful girl with whom Charles has an obvious chemistry. Charles is uplifted and ready to be independent. Grambling State University has offered him a full scholarship. His mother, Billy, is left alone to reflect on all that she has sacrificed for her family and ponder the uncertain future. Act 3. Charles is hazed upon joining a fraternity at college. Being used to pain, he receives the hazing stoically. Later, he goes to a nightclub and meets an attractive young woman, Greta, with whom he begins an affair. As they grow close, Charles tells Greta of the abuse he suffered as a child. Greta, however, informs him that she is seeing someone else, and Charles is alone once again. He calls home wanting the comfort of his mother's voice. To his shock and anger, his mother tells him that his cousin Chester is visiting. Charles decides to go home. He brings a gun with him and seems intent on confronting Chester. As Charles sits in his car in the dark, the siren voice of destiny sings to him again, encouraging him to take his revenge. As Charles reaches his childhood home, Charles E. Bay appears, urging him to let go of his anger. Charles ultimately decides not to take revenge on his cousin, as words from Act 1 are again invoked. Sometimes you just gotta leave it in the road. So, yeah. So that was what we had sat through. And, there were people in the audience who was heartbroken, right? Who was heartbroken, who was going through their own reliving of their traumas and, was really upset, right? Because they're like, I was a Charles Bay, right? So I experienced a Chester, right? Chester, and the thing was a cousin, but for some people, Chester was an uncle. Chester was a brother. Chester was a childhood friend. Chester was a mother's boyfriend. Chester was the grandfather. Chester was somebody who was in close proximity to the family, right? So as we was watching this, I was like, wow, this is deep, right? And what made it even more a talking point is because Charles E. Babe was touched and sexually abused by a male, right? And we don't talk about, right, in this day and age, we don't talk about the traumas that young boys go through, right? Because there are a lot of young boys who were sexually molested by other men. And it does not get as much attention because they are afraid to come forward, right? As they said in one of the acts, he wanted to tell his brother, but they said they didn't want to deal with that soft talk, right? Because the object of masculinity and femininity tends to get blurred when it come to young boys and come to men, right? They cannot be feminine. They cannot express themselves. They can't show emotion. They have to continue to keep on their masculine macho persona because no one wants a weakling, right? I hear all the time where females say that if they say something about like if everybody want to be a girl, who's going to be the boys, right? If all the boys want to be girls, who's going to be the boys, right? But it's also taken into the fact that we're put on a pedestal that's supposed to be constantly showing strength and resilience, but oftentimes we're hurt. Oftentimes they're hurting behind the scene, and if they show any ounce of emotion, they're soft, they're feminine, they're homosexual. But when they begin to lash out, or they come out and become aggressive, or they come out and be disrespectful, or act out on what they experience, they're also labeled bad. So it's like, damn if you do, and damn if you don't. Right? If you want to express yourself to your significant other, they don't want you to be, feminine, right? That's their job. That's their role. Right? But then if you don't talk to them, they say, "Oh, I don't know you. You don't talk to me. I don't know any of these things." It's like, well, what do you want me to do? Right? And just to even go back a little further. Like I was discussing with a colleague, right, about we constantly always hear, right, and also like on this podcast, like I said, it's going to be where I'm going to discuss things, and if it makes you feel uncomfortable or if like I'm out of place, please let me know, right? Let me know, and it also educate me, right? Because I'm not above being educated, right? I'm a scholar daily, so don't be afraid to challenge me and educate me, but please do it in a respectful manner. That's all I ask, right? Please do it in a respectful manner. You can educate somebody and bring a different perspective or awareness without being disrespectful, right? So I hear all the time that they say about the most disrespected person in America is a black woman, and that how men are constantly disrespecting black women, and how black women are always showing up into the space, how they always making things happen and things of that sort. And I always go back to I always tend to when this topic and statement comes up, I always tend to take them back into slavery, right? And I say to them all the time, you want black men to show up for you. And when they were showing up, they were killed. Right? During slavery, when the master wanted to take the females and rape them, and a black man will go and try to protect, they will be killed. So now you're left with a child with no father. Right? And the thing is always like, take the mind and leave the soul. Right? If you continue to beat down a black man, they won't have anything else to offer you, right? And I just found it horrible that black women say that they're the most disrespected, but they are always into the back. Not always, right? I don't want to project that on everybody. Some people are constantly, right? Some black females are constantly breaking down our black men. They are already being broken down as well, right? They're already being told who they are before they even born. Little bastards, little Negroes, gang members, murderers, robbers, rapers, right? Jailbirds, problem childs, pimps, cowards, not good enough, hoodlums, right? There are more black women in college than there are black men. There are more high school graduates that are women than there are black men. I sat in school and saw more black women in my classes than I saw black men in my classes. And that was for undergrad and for grad school. In grad school, I was the only male in my class. And then when I did see other black males, it was only about 5 of us on my hand. Yes, we do have a privilege, right? But being black ain't that privilege. The privilege is being a male, right? Being black is a disadvantage for us, right? Being a male is a privilege, but being black is not really a privilege. But what I do love though is that we are changing that narrative, saying that whether I'm a black male or a black female, I am privileged. I do have something I can offer, right? But yeah, back. But I'm getting sidetracked. I'm getting sidetracked. Back to the opera, right? So after watching that and discussing it with my friend as we was like on our way going home and everything, I said I have to make a podcast episode about this because I just want to know what the people think, right? And what people value more. So my thing is, right, like I even put it on Instagram, like my Instagram story, and have people like vote about what should you focus on, right? Because from the opera, he had his experience when he was a child, and that experience followed him throughout adulthood, right? He couldn't really get that close to a female because he still felt violated, right? And he wasn't sharing his full self with her. And then he went into a fraternity and felt like because he was abused as a kid that he could take the abuse from the fraternity by being hazed, right? But then also it was also causing him to question his sexuality, right? Was he gay? Was he straight? Right? This incident happened not because he wanted it to happen, but because it was forced on him. So now it puts him in a position of having to choose. Does this make me gay because I was sexually molested? Or am I considered straight? Right? And then in Act 3, when he got a new girlfriend and he said, "Know what? I can't hold back anymore. I have to tell her." And he told her and she left him. Right? Because she didn't see him as being a man anymore. Because another man had entered him, had tagged him, had violated him. So when he was planning to go back home and prevent harm, to say, I have to handle this. Right? I have to handle him. Because I can't fully live my life until justice is served. Whether that be through legal or through my revenge. So my question to people is, what do you focus on more? Do you focus on healing your inner child? Or do you focus on healing your present self, right? Because I'm pretty sure that many of us have went through some childhood traumas, or we experienced things that kind of shaken who we are now and how we present ourselves to the world, right? Whether if that means being, more aggressive, if that means being more masculine, if that means being more feminine, if that means being, heterosexual or homosexual, if that means being addicted to different devices because of you still trying to cope with what happened when you were young, right? Things of that sort. So, like, do you focus on healing that inner child who's still inside you as you grow older, and who still has a hold on how you move in life, right? Because, right, how you move in life. Because some people want to do things, but they're like, well, I can't do that because there's a piece of me that's still holding me back. There's a piece of me who I'm not ready to yet show the world, right? To show anybody, right? It's still tapping at me and saying, hey, I'm still here. I'm still here. So until you know, tell that story or show up as this person or this thing, I'm always gonna have power over you, right? And childhood trauma does not always have to be sexual, right? It don't have to be abuse, right? Some people childhood trauma can simply be my right. It can simply be like a parent putting you out the house, and you say, I'll never talk to that person again. Or you witness a divorce of your parents, and you stay with one parent, and because that other parent who left out of the picture left an impact on you and your family, right? And there's a organization in New York that's called Momentum Education, right? And I had a classmate that not a classmate, I had a friend who went through the program, and she recommended, she's like, hey, well, I want you to come to this event. I think it'll be really good. 'Cause you're a social worker and everything, X, Y, and Z. You should come. I said, all right, I'm gonna come. So I went to the event, and like they were like basically helping people to heal their inner child, right? To heal their inner child to be able to have a better present self, right? So they made them like basically like dig back, like what's bothering you, what's keeping you from moving forward in life, what's keeping you from being successful, and they help prep and guide the people to be able to go back and do that unworking that happened in childhood or happened in previous part of their lives. So they were sharing out one person I haven't spoken to my sister and all these amount of years and whatnot, and eventually after coming to Momentum, I end up getting the tools and the language and the courage to go have a conversation with them. So I went back and I went and had a conversation with my sister, my brother, my father, my parents, or whoever, and now we're taking it day by day, right? We're not fully back until the lovely relationship, but we are taking it day by day, right? We're being a lot more cordial. Holidays come, I'll text happy holidays or happy birthday, but we're not back to where we should be, right? And I think that when it comes to healing your inner child, that's a good thing, right? You want to do that, but me personally, I think that the inner child happened, right? You can't change the past, but you can change the present, right? So I think we should focus more so on our current self, right? Our present self. How do we fix our present self, right? What happened, what's done is done. But how do we move forward, right? Granted, you may have to go back to address some things and get some answers and get some answers, right? And maybe even forgive people, right? Because I learned that right, because I'm a person that if you do me wrong, it's clipped for you, Like it's clipped. Like it's clipped. We ain't talking. We ain't doing anything. Like it's just really clipped. Like to the point where if I see you outside, I'm walking past you like I never knew you. We could be in the same cliques, the same friend groups, and everything. I will come to that friend group circle, talk to everybody, and walk past you like I never knew who you were. It's just like that, right? But also, you know, I learned that forgiveness is not for the person. Forgiveness is for you, right? Because it releases you from having to hold on to that grudge, hold on to that baggage, right? So sometimes you have, like, just give the forgiveness to say, you know what, I forgive you for what you did. What you did was inappropriate. What you did was wrong. But I do want to, like, what you did was wrong, but I forgive you because I can't deal with that anymore. I'm not holding on to that anymore. I have to let it go, right? And you know, you may have to check as well. Like, you know what? I just want to know what made you say that or do that. What did I do for you to feel like that was something okay to do, right? Like you can ask for clarifying questions and get some clarity, but just forgive them, right? Don't try to do the harm. Well, if actually do what you want to do, right? Right? Because I can't speak for you. It's your experience. But what I would say is heal yourself, right? So, and the thing is, like, he's going back to harm him. He had a weapon. He's going back to harm him, but his inner child said, no, it's not worth it. Right? It's not worth it. And, recently it's been like a bunch of like, conversations like on like, online, different things about like, molestation and rape and everything of that sort. And they keep saying like, why do you keep telling people? Tell the authorities, right? And they're like, oh, because people are scared. They're scared. They're scared. You can tell people all you want, but the people really can't do nothing besides comfort you. They probably can go attack the person, but if you really want, real justice, unfortunately, you will have to go tell the authorities, right? The statute of limitations is different in each state, but they can bring it back from some years, and you can get justice that way, right? But don't let any of your childhood traumas define who you are or who you going to be, right? It happened, but you're still here. You're still strong. You made it through it, right? You may have a little bit of PTSD. That's okay. But still persevere. Still show up strong. Get yourself a tribe, a team, a family who could be with you. But like I said, I think that healing your inner child is important. But I think I'd rather focus on healing my present self. Right? And if you need any resources, you can definitely look into the link in the bio about different counseling service, right? They're free, right? Things like there's free counseling if you need it. Look in the description box, or if you want to just talk to a trusted friend who you really really trust, right? But if you do go into a counseling session, just know that your first counselor does not have to be your final counselor. You can continue to shop them and see which one is best for you. If you go to your first one and they're not for you, you don't want welcome to say, okay, thank you, but I would like to try somebody else, and they will assign you someone else to best fit your need, right? If you want a male, if you want a female, if you want a GNC, if you want a transgender, whoever may fit your particular aesthetic, black, white, Asian, or whoever, they will definitely try to accommodate you so you feel comfortable in sharing your experience, sharing your stories, sharing wherever you may need help with processing. That's why social workers and therapists and counselors are there. We are help you to help navigate your situations and provide interventions to help you become more resilient and more strong. Right? But that's all that I have for this episode of the podcast. And as I always say, and today I mean it even more, stay encouraged, stay prayed up, live your best, and do your best. Because at the end of the day has to end. And sometimes all you have is just yourself. See you later.